Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stacey Storino, and you are at the Stacey Storino channel, the place where this is the #1 resource for entrepreneur moms who are not just balancing personal and work life, because that's hard enough to do, but they're also trying to learn from me how to go multimedia while simultaneously going omni-channel, which in and of itself is a hard enough thing to do. Now, hi, Transformational Healing by Donna. How are you? Let's see, let me get in there so I can comment. Hi at Transformational Healing by Donna. Oh, it's so good to see you here. Now, guys, don't mind me. I'm still getting over a cold, and I was on the Renee Christine Cupcake Trainings channel earlier today and had a lot going on in the background. So if my energy is a little off, it's because of that. But I said, dude, I am in the middle of, well, not the middle. I am on day, what is it now? 23 of my 365-day live stream orbit to this YouTube channel. And in November, we are also coming out with produced videos as well. So if you'd like this to be your research to learn how to balance work and home life while simultaneously going multimedia and omni-channel in your content marketing approach as a busy entrepreneur mom, please hit that subscribe button, click the bell notification, and select all from the options that appear so that hopefully YouTube actually sends you all of the notifications when I go live. All right. So today we are talking about some hacks that you can have when it comes to goal setting. There are some people that don't like goals because it feels like restrictions. Transformational Healing said, by Donna said, saw you earlier but clicked off to watch the Cupcake Training launch. Yes, for OWO. Yes, for the new OWO software. It's very exciting. Yeah, so this is a MailChimp alternative that just launched. Our dual mentor, for our joint mentor, Renee Christine, for anybody watching this on the replay, she just launched today her MailChimp alternative. So if you want an email service provider that's a lot simpler to use and has a lot of design features woven in, yes, OWO is amazing. I'm actually a beta tester for it. So it's very, very cool. So I'm glad you like that, Donna. Okay, so this is about not just, hey, aloha, Miss Jan. How are you? I'm glad I caught you live. I'm glad you caught me live too. With the 365-day live stream orbit, I'm kind of bouncing in and out at different times to kind of reach people, and especially my students, hello, in different time zones. So I can't get all of you at the same time, but I try. But the pre-produced videos are also coming in November, so make sure you hit that big red subscribe button if you're new around here. Okay, so why do I have the ruler? We're going to talk about this in a minute. So I personally think that you are amazing, Stacey. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yay. So when it comes to goal setting, yes, it's important. I feel it's important to set goals. Some people don't like it and they're like, oh, I don't want to have to do that. I'm my own boss and I'm a mom and I'm balancing all these things and it's just too hard for me to set goals and have that yardstick by which to be measured. But that's not the reason why I'm using this. I don't know. My mentor and a lot of my students' joint mentor, Renee Christine, she doesn't like goals. Me personally, I'm all about goals. So that's one of the few places that we part company. So I think that setting goals is super important, both in your business and your personal life. You got to name it to claim it. It might help you to get more concrete and more fine-grained on what you're doing, how you're doing. And once you set that goal, you might be able to reverse engineer from it what it is that you need to do to figure out all the steps or all the rungs going up the ladder to travel where you want to go when you get to the end of that goal. To just set down goals, there are some people that can do it and they're good to great at achieving them. It's just keeping it as a focus that you train your attention on. Jan says, I'm a goal setter because I get so easily distracted. Squirrel! Yes, very true. What social media has done, it's a blessing, it's a curse. We have so much stuff coming at us all the time. It's very easy to get sidetracked on social media. You go down a scroll hole. You're on, Google, or you fire up the search engine of choice, and you can get lost down there too, right? So when you set goals and you hook them into things like a paper, digital planner system, or both, I really do use both. Work whatever system works for you, but just work it. What I'm saying here is there's actually some hacks or a system to proper goal setting. It doesn't have to be crazy difficult to do. If it was, and if it had too many steps to it, we wouldn't do it, most of us, persistently and consistently. So, of course, the hackneyed old phrase is that, when you are setting goals and you're not concrete about them, all you really do is have a wish. So you need to get really concrete. So when you're doing goal setting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are actually 6 steps to proper goal setting. You might have heard of 5. I do like 6 personally, and I'll tell you why once I walk through them. So when you're setting goals, they do have to be specific. And if it's an easy enough goal for you to knock off, cool, but you still need some specificity. The harder the goal is for you to achieve the way you're thinking about it going into it, you need even more fine-grained specificity than you might think up front. So you have to be specific. The goal has to be specific. It has to be measurable. Measurable, right? It's got to be measurable. It's got to be something you can't measure it, then you can't manage it. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Then it also has to be attainable, okay? Practically any goal you set could be attainable, but it has to be something that, even if it's a stretch goal, even if it's a hairy, scary goal for you, it's not a goal that you can easily see yourself achieving short term, because those goals are plenty good. Those goals help us with our scheduling and getting through the day-to-day. But if you're talking about a big picture goal or an overarching goal for your business, your family, both, okay? Yes, the goal has to be specific. It has to be measurable, but it also has to be something that at least somehow, some way your brain feels is attainable. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Your goal also has to be relevant to where you are right now, because that's another thing that if your brain, your subconscious mind at the very least, your conscious mind can do all sorts of gyrations, and they can be very useful gyrations. But if your subconscious mind isn't at least to some degree on board with the goals that you set, that can explain why you end up procrastinating, you end up cutting your nose off to spite your face on your goal, you engage in what they call self-sabotage. And a lot of times it's because your subconscious mind isn't on board enough. So in order to protect you from hurting yourself on something that feels like it's too much of a crapshoot, you will find yourself, through procrastination and all sorts of self-sabotaging behavior, you'll find yourself keeping yourself within a certain comfort zone. It's almost like the subconscious mind puts you in a playpen to protect you from going too far out into the wild to get hurt. So if you've caught yourself in engaging in self-sabotaging behavior, sometimes it's because you're setting a goal that just doesn't feel right to you, and you're doing it because you think you should, but you ultimately just don't want to. That's a separate story. Obviously, you need to set new and fresh goals. But as obvious as it sounds to some of you, others of you might be sitting here either live or on the replay and going, maybe I've outgrown those goals. Maybe those goals don't fit where I am anymore. And so that fails the relevancy test, the relevancy hack to making a goal successful for you. Then there's the first T in the SMART with the double T kind of acronym. It's not just S-M-A-R-T, it's S-M-A-R-T-T, okay? So the first T is that it has to be time bound. There has to be a deadline on a goal, unless it's just so short-term and disposable and you're like, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's still on a timeline. It's still on a to-do list as opposed to a wish list, something that is more long-term in terms of your goal setting. But then there's that extra T that I talked about. And it is not just time bound, it is tangible, or timely, it is tangible. So let me just go through these really quickly. I like the SMART acronym. I haven't heard of the extra T, right? So again, let's just review it nice and tight. For goal setting, there are 6 hacks that I like. I like it to be specific. I like it to be measurable. You can't manage what you don't measure. It has to be attainable. Even if it's long-term attainable versus short-term, there has to be some connection for your subconscious mind between what you're trying to do and your current reality. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, right? And tangible. So specific, when you're struggling with getting more specific and fine-grained with your goals than you would have originally done, it's great to brainstorm and kind of get as specific just off the cuff that you can. But when you're done with your brain dump in terms of the specificity for that particular goal, I want you to see whether or not you've got your 5 W's and the H satisfied with respect to the specificity of your goal. Can you answer who is involved? What do you want to accomplish? Where you have to be, or where you have to go, or where you have to get to when you know that that goal is accomplished. When this is establishing a time frame, we'll go back and unpack with one of the other elements or hacks in a minute. Which restraints do you currently have? Which constraints do you currently have given your facts and circumstances? Juggling work and home, I'm sure you guys can think of a lot of your current constraints that you are in and what kind of requirements you need to get on the table, long-term, short-term, or both, so that you can manage and, transcend those constraints. So, and then also you have to say why. We talked about this, I believe, the other day, where we were talking about, remember, this is a 365-day live stream orbit. I've got a couple of playlists because I'm trying to put all the replays in by week. Jan says specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, a timetable, and tangible. Yes. I want to add an E so I can add an R for a reward when I accomplish the goal. I do like that. Some people get motivated by the carrot. I'm a carrot chaser too. Some people need leverage. They need the stick. And the carrot and the stick can help to motivate you on both ends. So the timeliness deadline part of it, that can put some leverage on you. That's kind of like the prop by which, was it Archimedes that said, give me a prop long enough and strong enough and I can literally move the world. So yes, you do need leverage on yourself. Just like when we do like marketing for our products, our services, our e-courses, our digital downloads, whatever it is that we're selling as entrepreneur moms. We like to put in like those timers in the emails. We like to talk about it's a limited time offer, or, if we have a product line collection, we're putting it on a flash sale or a clearance sale. Things like that tend to bring in rewards persistently and consistently when you execute them properly, because leverage is a huge thing for everybody. So like leverage is a huge thing for your customers. Leverage is also that big prop, good to move you forward on your goals. So remember, when you're looking at specificity after your brain dump, it's who, it's what, it's where, it's when, it's which, it's why. That's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 W's. And the H is how. How? You can, how. What steps is it going to take? Not to just get over what constraints are in the way of your goal. Those can be different from the actual steps that you have to take for the how in order to get from point A, where you're starting out on the goal, and point B, right? So that's all the different rungs that are on the ladder to the successfully attaining your goal. Okay? Then to make that goal measurable, here's the next hack. Yep. Jan says who, what, where, when, which, why, and how. Perfect. Got it. She got it. So measurable, okay, whatever you can't measure, you can't manage. So you want to establish whatever criteria is necessary to measure your goals for personal or for business? Let me give you a quick way with tech and social media and the tech that's behind your various platforms. One way that you could set goals for your business, let's say, that's measurable is you can go into like your analytics for your Facebook insights, your insights on Instagram. If you have a website, you can use Google Analytics. That's free. The other things are also free. They come on board with your free social media apps. But Google Analytics, all the different insights, those help you measure the effectiveness of every post, right? So maybe one of your goals business wise is to make sure that your posts are getting more reach, more subscribers in, more engagement. And if you get more subscribers and more engagement, they tend to opt into your email list some way sooner, and others, as you earn their know, like, and trust, they'll get in too, right? So there's a whole bunch of ways with analytics alone that can really help you with your business. And you don't have to spend money on getting apps or any sort of services. Use the stuff that's on board. You know, in your personal life, if you're losing weight, I mean, I think that's obvious, like how many pounds, how many inches, stuff like that. You're homeschooling your kids and you want their grades to come up. These are different ways that things are measurable, you know, for you, whether it's personal or business and the life that you're balancing. So the types of questions that you want to ask yourself when you're looking at how measurable your goal is, besides all the obvious, is that you want to be able to say to yourself, you don't want to ask questions of yourself like how much or how many. See, this is what, how many, you know, it's going to all depend on the goals you set. How will I know when it's accomplished, right? That's another way of knowing, like, when do I know I'm at the end point? If it's a financial goal, that's obvious. If it's a weight loss goal, that's obvious. But there may be things that are less objective and more subjective. Like, you know, I've set a goal that I'm going to have more family time and you know, back off work a little bit to get the work-life balance. You could measure that in terms of hours, afternoons, things like that. Attainable. When you can identify goals that are important to you, you begin to figure out the ways in which to make them true or attainable, right? So as you're getting everything else, all the various hacks together for good goal setting, you might be able to back into how to make it more attainable. You've identified steps previously, you've identified constraints, and so on and so forth. Some of the attainability concepts might be self-evident to you, and others, you might have to work on the other 5 elements of the 6 to get this hack right. Jan says, I can see how being measurable helps you gauge so you can be more intentional and effective rather than just shooting in the dark. That's true. And, you know, sometimes we go for the head fake. Sometimes we set goals, we don't go through all these gyrations, and we attain them. Okay, well, more likely than not, they were more like chores than goals, right? Chores can be goals, but, you know, chores are pretty easy usually to pull off, right? So is it a chore more than it is a goal? Is it, you know, and the more short term it is, the easier it is for us to actually attain and achieve that goal. But not always. Sometimes the short-term goals are such a stretch from where we are, but they're not that long of a stretch. They're not that big of a stretch. And so, you know, but we might still be able to get there without having to go through all the gyrations and get this sense of accomplishment and have our reward, as Jan wisely pointed out, right? Some of us need the carrot and some of us need the stick, and some of us actually need both. So, yep. Let's see. Yep. So attainability is something that you might have to back end in some of the figuring and factoring of the actual steps that are needed. But, you know, you also have to know how to remove any constraints. We've talked a couple of live streams back on this channel about calling in the cavalry, how you do it for free, how you do it cheap, how you do it paid, personally and professionally. I need both carrot and stick, says Jan. Most of us do. You are in good company. Realistic. So I kind of said this before, so I don't want to beat this one to death. If you do have to have stretch goals to kind of work towards personally, professionally, within your family, not every goal is going to be super short term, chore like, or close. Chores and super short term goals and goals that don't push you too far outside your comfort zone, those are automatically realistic enough for you. So, other than just laziness or sloth, you're probably going to get there if you put enough of a stick on you or dangle enough of a carrot in front of you, right? So, but when you go for more long-term stretch goals and hairy, scary goals that are like beyond stretch goals, okay, that's where you start to dance with the devil of self-sabotage. I am not saying that you don't set those goals. I think you need to set chore-esque goals, chore goals, super short term. You can do it in 2 weeks to a month. Medium length goals, really, maybe it takes 2 months to a half a year to do. It's not too crazy. The older you get, the faster the time goes. The more kids you have to juggle and the more things you have to juggle, the faster the days fly. And then I would say long-term goals could be in the flavors of like a year plus or minus, 5-year, 10-year, and 20-year long-term goals. And obviously, the further you go out with your goals, the more unrealistic they may seem to you. So when you're going for realism and you're doing those stretch goals and the hairy, scary goals and the super long-term goals, make sure, this is a hack, this is a trick, that you build a bridge as you imagine this stuff, as you plot it out between where you are currently and how, even if it's going to take a bunch of rungs on that ladder, even if it's going to take a bunch of stairs up that staircase, or a bunch of steps on a journey of what's probably going to feel like 1,000 miles to you, if not more, to go for the stretch goals, to go for the long-term goals, to go for the hairy, scary goals. Okay. However, if you trace a path in your brain about where it's likely going to have to take you on your journey, that even if the journey is long and even if you have to do a lot, your self-sabotage should slowly drop. You do have to concentrate on that too, but it will be a lot easier to dissolve any urge to self-sabotage when it feels realistic, not just to your conscious mind, but to your subconscious mind. So that's how I think you can make your goals more realistic. You might have to mentally go through the whole like mini series of what you're going to have to do and stay calm and say, these are the requirements. These are the constraints I have to lift. These are the steps as to how I lift this restraint personally, this restraint professionally, how much help I have to call in, how much more as my business is more profitable that I have to call in order to help me get to my long-term goals, my stretch goals, my hairy, scary goals. Okay, 2 more. Timely. This is all about setting a date on a calendar, paper, digital, both. The digital ones you can go and make, especially the longer term goals. You can plot in 5, 10, 20 years down the road, right? It's kind of like if you cut the line in the sand, you are naming it and you are claiming it. Jan says, a big stretch goal is finishing my architect site, Ultimate Architect by Renee Christine, by the way, for those that don't know. It's a website building course that will save you literally thousands of dollars. And if you do things within the very big parameters they have set, because they know different people have different types of websites with different needs, they give you like lifetime support built into the price of the course. So you made a good investment there, Jan. A big stretch goal is finishing my architect site, but I think I have to plan just a little every week. I think I'm close to finishing, but it seems daunting to me. I am older. I just turned 49 this past week. I absolutely hate technology. I really do. So the fact that I now teach people about it is pretty funny. And I needed that course, and it did take me. I had to plot that into my power hours every day and just get through it an hour at a time. And if I could do 2-3 hours and I was in a good, vibe, kind of good, flow of it, great. But it was time consuming, but that is one of the most important things that you can do for your business. Even though I would have you drive everybody to your email opt-in link instead of your website nowadays, People need to see that you have a website once they're really checking you out and or shopping you. And if you don't have a website, you just don't look real today. So I think, Jan, it's really important that you invested in yourself like that for the course, and you're getting pretty close to done, which is good. So you like carrot and stick. So the stick on you is, I'm getting into the holidays. I really don't want to get into November if at all possible, especially because you're a products-based business. And especially because products-based businesses are really hot with Gen Y and Gen Z right now. They really are. And so we're getting into the gift giving season where people aren't just buying for themselves, obviously. They're really buying for all the end of the year holidays, your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your Kwanzaa, and all that. You need to have that website done, because otherwise I think it's like you turn off like 80% of people who start to research you before they spend dollars with you. And they're like, no website, no way. You just that doesn't make sense. So that's your leverage. That's your prop. That's your lever on yourself, right? That's part of the hack. That's part of the 6-part hack. The carrot is whatever it is you want to do, Miss Jan, when you are done to celebrate. But, when you have that website going, you can get a lot more deposits in the bank of know, like, and trust for people who aren't really familiar with your brand, or they're just getting to know your brand. They'll like you a whole lot better. So that is totally worth your time. Hold on just a second. I'm getting over an illness, y'all, so I need the OJ. So Transformational Healing by Donna says, me too, Jan. I'm making steps every day. That is a bear, especially when you're not tech driven, and especially when you're starting a website from scratch. Both of you really should, because this is something we're going to explore going into next week. Both of you really should put up a blog on that website too, to leverage Google SEO or search engine optimization. Now, because the two of you have access to the Ultimate Architect course, you've got that SEO bobsled bonus. That thing is gold. That thing is gold. So I won't say anything else because I don't want to spill the beans. Let's see. I'm going to get to the last tip right now. As soon as I say, oh, me too. I'm not techie, although people think I know a bunch. Yay, Donna. Donna's going. Just making steps every day. Thank you. I have a website, but I want to move it to Architect. You really should. For those people who haven't visited ultimatearchitect.com, you really should. All right. So timely, it's deadlines, it's time frames, it's putting leverage on ourselves. Okay. Your goal is probably realistic if you believe it can be accomplished. And again, you got to name it to claim it. You've got to draw that line in the sand. You've got to put a stake in the ground. This is the deadline. Okay. And you have to understand why you pick that deadline. If it's arbitrary, especially if this is a push stretch goal for you and you're feeling very uncomfortable, you're way outside your safety zone there. I'm telling you, if it's an arbitrary date, you're going to want to self-sabotage and push it. So give yourself a reason or a rationale. Remember that prop, that lever that you're going to put into why the deadline that you establish has to be met. There's no false bottom to it. Transformational Healing by Donna. I've been wondering about going live before putting up products. Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. Let me finish this and I'll address that. So T, the last T in the Smart Plus T, 6-pronged hack for real effective goal setting, okay? Because this isn't airy-fairy crap. It's for tangible. A goal is tangible when you can use one or more of the senses to identify the goal and the achievement of it. So, of course, this is very fact-specific. And it kind of dials into the whole why thing that I talked about in a recent live stream during this 365-day live stream orbit. Your why, your reason for living personally and professionally. I said that your why, and I'll tie this into this last part of the hack in a second. Your why can seem all airy-fairy and totally goofy and, let's all go do a vision board. Let's all journal about it. And those activities are really cool and they are really helpful. And if you're creative in one or both ways, you should do it. But it all sounds like BS, if you're not getting very specific about what that why translates out into now and the idealized version of it later. So there I also said your subconscious mind will cry BS and you will not really hook into this. It will not serve as your North Star to guide you personally, professionally, and how to best balance that both for you and for your unique facts and circumstances. So I said, with your why, you need to really get specific about it. Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, how that shows up. And if you're not spiritual or religious, ethically, how does it look like to you in your ethics of doing business, in your ethics of having the type of family life you want, okay, the type of relationships you want to have personally and professionally. But also you need to use the senses. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Right? And we talked about how, like, even airy fairy things like taste and smell can actually show up in a why. So it can show up in a goal too, right? So if you have achieved your goal and it has been made tangible, let me give you an example of how this shows up here, right? You can say to yourself, well, when I've achieved this goal, for example, I don't know, whatever the goal is, once I've achieved it, I see myself sitting out on the beach and I'm feeling the warmth of the sun as I celebrate and the sand beneath my body. I'm feeling, the warmth of the sun, the sand in my body. I'm hearing the ocean and the seagulls crying. I'm tasting, a frozen umbrella drink as I toast my success. And so it tastes like, pineapple, coconut, and rum. And oh, I'm looking at the crystal clear blue ocean. Okay, you can do that. Just like you could imagine how your why literally will look, smell, feel, taste, etc. when you're working your ideal situation, balancing work and home in the best way for you. So, goal setting can sound like a whole bunch of airy fairy crap, but it's really not. And so I do think that, like, if doing a vision board helps you because you're a visual learner and you process things visually, and a lot of creatives, like a lot of my students, that's helpful to you. All right, invest a power hour. Power hour was day 2. In a couple of days, we're going to get even more fine grained with all the different types of power hours that you can do, because a lot of my students love, love, love the power hour. Even if they can't do it in 60 minutes all at once, they put it in 2 30-minute hemispheres or 4 15-minute quads, time lapsed out throughout a 24-hour period, and it works for them. But oh, Jan says, how fun, Stacey. Yep. I do have a vision board. It's helpful for me. If it's helpful for you, do it, right? And a lot of creatives love that. So hook into that for your why. And today, hook into that to make your goal seem tangible. Because again, the more tangible your goal and your outcome is on that goal, the less likely it's going to be that your subconscious will encourage you and win the war on self-sabotage. Of course, you're responsible for ratcheting down on that too. The temptation's always going to be there, but it might be less strong and it might be less often if these 6 different prongs of the hack for goal setting are met. Now, if it helps you to do a vision board, great. If a vision board feels like a waste of time, phooey. If it helps you to journal about this stuff, great. If it's a waste of time, don't. But I would recommend that you write this stuff down, at least get all the framework and all the questions answered per goal, right? And, or type it up, right? Write it down or type it up, because again, even the act of doing that, studies have shown, will anchor it more with you, and it will anchor and feel more real to your subconscious mind. So, your conscious mind is like, okay, everything's anchored. Yep, I've answered all the questions. I've gotten really fine grained. I've plugged in all the steps and the timelines and everything. And I have my, initial plans to deal with all the constraints. Cool. And your subconscious mind needs it because it's one step closer to being real, if that makes sense. So, all right, guys, that's it for me for now. If you're new around here, make sure you click that big red subscribe button. Tomorrow will be day 24 of my 365-day live stream orbit to this channel. If you believe there's anybody that you know who could benefit from all of this free training, make sure you share this out and encourage them to subscribe as well. Donna, you're welcome. And Jan says, makes sense. Thank you so much. Get better, Stacey. Hugs. Mwah. Love you guys, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.